In this segment, we are going to look at the first of Newton's 3 laws of motion, and we will take a brief look at 6 interesting ideas of physics associated with the first law: inertia, velocity, centrifugal feeling, centripetal force, friction, and weightlessness. We just looked at Newton's law of universal gravitation, that all objects have mass and come preloaded with their own gravitational field. All things naturally pull toward one another. The greater the mass, the greater the tug. So if they are pulling toward each other, why don't the moon and the earth crash into each other? Well, they would if gravity was the only issue to consider, but they also have their forward motion, their forward inertia given at the creation. In Newton's Principia, he not only described his universal law of gravity, but he also described 3 laws of motion. And to help us remember these laws, we have a train with the 3 laws simplified and illustrated on each car. Law number 1. Objects at rest will stay at rest unless acted on by another force. Illustrated by our sleeping dog at rest, about to be acted on by another force, our happy little cat. Law 2. F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration. And we've illustrated this formula on a chalkboard with 2 massive knights forcefully accelerating toward each other. And the third law: for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Illustrated by our young man slipping off of his skateboard. The skateboard goes off in one action, and he goes off in an opposite reaction. Now, it's easy to confuse these 3 laws of motion with the 3 laws of thermodynamics, which we looked at in the heat segment, because there are 3 of them. The 3 laws of thermodynamics deal with the physics of how heat moves, and the 3 laws of motion deal with the physics of how things move. An important part of science is the ability to predict, like predict the motion and movement of planets and objects. But what causes things to move in the first place? What causes something to speed up or slow down? The answer is force. Only a force can cause something to move, and not surprisingly, Aristotle and Newton had different views on how force affects objects. Look, when the fan turns off, the motor slows down and stops. But why does it stop? Aristotle